The world is watching, but no one truly understands what's happening. A shocking move, an unthinkable statement, and a future that could change everything. Is Canada about to become the next U.S. state? Is this just political theater? Or is there a deeper agenda unfolding right before our eyes? You've seen the headlines, but what you haven't seen is the truth behind it all, and how it connects to something much bigger than politics. Something rooted in history, power, and a battle of ideologies. A battle that Islam warned us about long ago. First, it sounded like a joke, but then, as the pieces came together, the reality became impossible to ignore. When former President Donald Trump made comments suggesting that Canada could benefit from joining the United States, many laughed it off. But history tells us that political shifts often begin with words. And when those words come from a man who once held the most powerful office in the world, a man who still influences millions, should we really dismiss them so easily? Or should we dig deeper and ask, why now? Why Canada? And most importantly, how does this connect to the greater struggle between truth and falsehood? To understand this, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. The world today is not driven by justice or morality. It is driven by power. Nations rise and fall not because of righteousness, but because of economic strength, military might, and the ability to control narratives. And in this system, those who stand for truth, especially those who follow divine guidance, are always at risk of being silenced, manipulated, or dominated. This is not new. The Quran tells us again and again about the arrogance of those who reject divine guidance, about their thirst for control, and how they work tirelessly to impose their will on others. And never will the Jews or the Christians be satisfied with you until you follow their way. This is not about Canada alone. This is about the global agenda that seeks to eliminate any nation, any people, and any system that resists submission to secular power. But what does Canada have to do with all of this? Canada, despite being a Western nation, has maintained an identity distinct from the aggressive policies of the United States. It has played a different role on the global stage, balancing diplomacy with economic cooperation. But now tensions are rising. Economic pressure, political instability, and the global shift toward nationalism are creating an environment where even the most stable countries are vulnerable. And when a superpower like the U.S. sees an opportunity, it rarely hesitates to take advantage. Throughout history, we have seen how powerful nations justify their expansion, sometimes through war, sometimes through economic takeovers, and sometimes through the slow erosion of sovereignty. Will Canada be next? Is this just another step toward complete U.S. dominance? What's even more alarming is how these discussions are being framed. It's not just about economics or politics. It's about identity. If Canada were to become part of the U.S., it wouldn't just mean a change in governance. It would mean a complete shift in values, laws, and the way society functions. And as Muslims, we know how dangerous this can be. When nations are absorbed into larger empires, their unique identities are erased. Their ability to make independent decisions vanishes. And history has shown us that when powerful secular nations take control, the first thing they do is weaken the religious fabric of society. We have seen this pattern again and again in Muslim lands, in indigenous communities, and in any place where people refuse to conform to the dominant ideology. This is why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasized the importance of standing firm in faith, even when surrounded by forces that seek to weaken it. The Quran warns us about those who seek to lead believers away from the truth, using wealth, power, and influence as their weapons. And they strive to cause corruption in the land, but Allah does not like corruptors. What we are witnessing is not just a political game. It is a struggle between justice and oppression, between truth and deception. And as Muslims living in the West, we must ask ourselves, are we paying attention? Are we recognizing the signs? Or are we falling into the trap of thinking that these global shifts have nothing to do with us? The consequences of such a shift would be far-reaching. If Canada were to lose its sovereignty, it would mean the loss of independent policies, especially those that impact minorities and religious communities. We have already seen how U.S. policies have targeted Muslims, from the Muslim ban to surveillance programs that violate fundamental rights. If Canada falls under the same system, what protections would remain? What guarantees would there be that Islamic values, halal businesses, Muslim schools, and religious freedoms would be safeguarded? Or would it be the beginning of an even greater push toward secularism, where faith is forced into the shadows? Some might say, this will never happen. Canada is too strong, too independent. But history tells a different story. Superpowers do not act on impulse. They act with strategy, patience, and a long-term vision. Just as the Roman Empire expanded, just as colonial powers divided and conquered, today's powers operate with the same mindset. Only the methods have changed. Economic pressure, political alliances, media narratives, all of these play a role in shaping the future. And if we do not wake up now, by the time the reality becomes clear, it may be too late. But what can we do? As Muslims, we are not powerless. The first step is awareness, understanding the reality of what is happening around us, seeing beyond the surface, and recognizing the deeper forces at play. We must educate ourselves and our communities, ensuring that we are not deceived by the narratives pushed by those who seek control. The second step is strengthening our faith. No matter how much the world changes, no matter what political shifts take place, our anchor must remain firm in the guidance of Allah. We must hold onto our identity, our values, and our principles with unwavering conviction. And finally, we must engage, not by playing into the corrupt system, but by standing for truth, supporting justice, and making sure that our voices are heard. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The best jihad is to speak a word of truth to an oppressive ruler." In a time of deception, truth becomes the most powerful weapon. The future remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the world is changing, and we cannot afford to be passive spectators. The question is not just whether Canada will become the 51st state of the U.S. The real question is, will we, as Muslims, recognize the reality of the world we live in and prepare ourselves for what's coming? Or will we wake up only when it's too late? The choice is ours. But history has shown that those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. And as the forces of power continue their games, we must remember, true power belongs only to Allah. Say, "O Allah, owner of sovereignty, you give sovereignty to whom you will, and you take sovereignty away from whom you will." The world may change, but the truth remains unshaken. The only question is, will we stand firm with it?